Yeah. So what do you think are that libertarians, conservatives, what do they not understand about the origins of the arguments against an unfettered free speech?
Yes. So one thing that I don't see being discussed so much in our circles would be the ideas of Marcuse and specifically his article on repressive tolerance. It's an article that was written in the 1960s, and it really opened up my eyes for the situation on campuses, because coming from Germany and having lived in Europe, I did not fully understand what was going on campus in the United States until I came here and live here now. And I've read that essay, and it's only 15 pages, and I can try to give you like a simplified argument what's in there and how people are interpreting that on campuses right now. His argument is that free speech has not really helped oppressive groups. You can look at the 1960s and say like all of these protests, like they didn't lead anywhere, and you still have oppression nowadays. While yes, there is still oppression nowadays, it has helped a lot, but that's not what they see. And they still systematic oppression within society, and they want to go against that. They want to help oppressed groups. They want to have like a more equal society.
So in a sense, it is the idea that free speech is a tool when it's useful, and when it's not useful, it's something that we don't care anything about or shouldn't care about.
I think it goes even further. Free speech is only useful if you have free speech about the ideas that we care about. So like Marcuse likes free speech as long as it's his ideas. And that is really, really dangerous. So his argument goes further. And unfortunately, it is logically coherent. It's misguided and it's wrong, but it's logically coherent. It goes like the following. He says that free speech is actually a tool towards oppression, because free speech gives power to disproportionate power to the people who are in charge of society, so to speak, meaning politicians, media, maybe people in think tanks, church, all kinds of facets of society. And these individuals have free speech rights, and so have the oppressed groups. However, it gives these people a disproportionate soapbox, so to speak, to spread their ideas. And their ideas, he says, they will be mostly about the status quo and will be mostly focused on continue to oppress the people. And therefore, you need to break out of that. Free speech in itself cannot solve that problem because it leads to one group having more influence over the others. He assumes, of course, that there's like homogeneous preferences about like how power should be distributed in society. And many now modern authors connect that with the idea of whiteness, and most people in power are white, and therefore like they want to oppress like people of color, etc. But that is his argument in a nutshell, and that leads then to activists to say like, yeah, free speech doesn't work anymore. We don't want to have debates with the right or with people we don't agree with. We want to shut them down because that's what is needed in order to just have the ideas float around that leads to a equal and prosperous society as they define it.
All right. So what then is the correct approach? You say that libertarians and conservatives sort of misunderstand how deep this conviction is, but how do you combat that?
First and foremost, we have to understand where they're coming from, and we have to understand the ideas. I'm not saying that most leftists on campus really have read Marcuse. I don't think that is the case. Like, this phenomenon is fairly recent, and it came about through social media, mostly in 2014 and afterwards, on like websites like Tumblr. And that's how most people like get their, I'm not even sure if you want to call that arguments, but just like the sense that you can be righteous if you stand up for oppressed groups and if you try to shut down everyone that does not agree with you. And it is a first step in the right direction if like classical liberals and libertarians and conservatives understand where these ideas come from, because then you can argue against it. For instance, you can say that in many instances, free speech actually has helped a lot of oppressed groups. I mean, there were, back in the day, majority views that euthanasia was a good thing in the United States, in the UK, but also in Germany and many other countries. However, these ideas are gone, and it's because like people have spoken up against it. Furthermore, also, I don't think the world has seen so much rapid change in terms of societal ideas as in terms of LGBTQ and also gay people, and that they're like much more tolerated. And of course, it's not perfect, and many parts of the world still see like a lot of discrimination on that, and it's not something that is done overnight. But we can see how free speech has contributed to that, and giving like arguments like that will definitely help. Also, another danger with the Marcusean idea is that it fast leads to means of societal change which are dangerous, meaning that people want to use violence in order to shut down people that they disagree with or that hurt your feelings. And we have seen that.
What do you think of the idea of people who try to make equivalent or at least minimize the distinction between speech and violence?
I think that is fundamentally dangerous, but you can see now, I think, with the Marcusian argument, like where this comes from. And they say, like, words can hurt, and therefore it is the same as pain, and therefore we need to defend ourselves, and we can defend ourselves with using violence. And that's their argument, and we have seen some people taking it on. I think it's just a small minority, and very often these people can actually come from outside the campus and try to steer things up for reasons. But I don't think that like a majority of people take that on. But I think we need to argue against that. And we have to understand that our ideals, for instance, the Enlightenment, is something that the new left, as we have defined it now, is really against. And we have to be careful what kind of words we are using and trying to convince others. Because if we say, like, look, you have to read Adam Smith and believe in the ideas of the Enlightenment, and they react very negatively against that, then they will not listen to us. But there's also evidence, and we have to present that also, why violence often leads to opposite results, that government will be like more oppressive and will actually curtail more of the freedoms of the people that the violent people try to help. And there are many cases throughout history that you can also mention along those lines. But if we don't understand all of these lines of arguments, then we cannot tackle them effectively. That's my whole point.